A white male Donald Trump supporter was attacked from behind and bashed in the head with a bag full of rocks, splitting open a gash near his ear as the heavily Hispanic crowd cheered. Media crews caught up with the bloodied man and blamed the victim by demanding to know what the man could have said to the protesters to warrant such a reaction. See, it's your fault because you must have done something. You know how, like, women get raped? They must have done something. One individual was attacked by the mob, punched and stomped, and the beating only stopped when a black protester shouted, "He's with us! He's with us!" An angry mob of Hispanic men waving middle fingers and Mexican flags cornered a white woman who was wearing a Donald Trump jersey and pelted her with eggs, watermelon, and bottles, an egg hitting her right in the eye. When the eggs hit her in the face, the angry mob cheered. CNN reporter Sarah Murray said, "Protesters cornering Trump supporters as they leave. This woman taunted them. They cornered her and threw eggs at her." See, you've got to say that she taunted them first because, you see, I guess the protesters, for want of a better word, and we will in fact come up with a better word in a minute or two, the protesters have no moral agency. They're like bulls with a red flag. Charge law! Right? All right, well, if that is the case, there are certain conclusions to be drawn. Now, people, of course, brought all their eggs, so this is not a crime of passion. This is not spur of the moment. They came with eggs, unless they had just finished setting up an enormous Egg Benedict cookout. They had the eggs because they intended to throw them. And that's a more serious breach of the peace than a sudden flash riot. Remember when Justin Bieber threw some eggs at a house? People went insane. And the left went mad over Michelle Fields, who was crowding a presidential nominee, who was told by the Secret Service to stay back, who kept grabbing at him and was moved out of the way by Corey Lewandowski, who was responsible for Trump's security. It could be said that she did a few things to bring about that altercation herself. But if you are a Trump supporter, well, clearly you must have done something to anger the mob. It's your fault. It's not their fault. It's like going outside when it's hailing. Now, the always courageous Mike Cernovich from DangerandPlay.com exposed Tucson, Arizona sportscaster Paul Cicala for defending the violence. Cicala tweeted, "Hey, brother, you aren't reporting that she was taunting protesters moments before, pointing to her Trump shirt, etc. Please be fair. Not okay, my friend. Those protesters are definitely wrong, but she has to be careful egging them on, or she sets herself up for that." Egging them on. It's really fucking funny. So this is the asshole, the yes asshole people, or you can call them the yes but people. I support freedom of speech, but those protesters are definitely wrong. But she did point at her own t-shirt, so hey, rapists are totally wrong. However, she was wearing a low-cut top. I mean, the yes asshole people or the yes but people, you just ignore everything they say before they say the word but. A Trump supporter in a wheelchair was also pelted with various items and can be seen on video angrily questioning the police nearby, who did nothing. Now, despite all the assaults and property damage, the protest only led to a few arrests, about a half a dozen, generally about 2 hours after the conflict began. Now, if you have been channel surfing a little bit over the last day or so, have you found lots of examples of these unbelievably graphic examples of hideous activist leftist violence? Not really, because you see, the media is on the left, so all they do is make up hate crimes on the right. They don't actually report existing hate crimes on the left. San Jose Mayor Sam Liccardo, he is a Democrat and a Hillary Clinton supporter, said, quote, "Our police officers have done an extremely courageous and professional job so far. We're all still holding our breath to see the outcome of this dangerous and explosive situation. At some point, Donald Trump needs to take responsibility for the irresponsible behavior of his campaign." See, that's the problem he's pointing out. If Donald Trump holds political opinions, or his supporters appreciate political opinions, that the left doesn't like, all the resulting violence from the left is the fault of Donald Trump and his campaign, right? Like, if a husband beats up his wife, it's because of something she said, something she did. You know, maybe his beer was warm, maybe his steak was cold. She did something. Maybe she criticized him. Maybe she questioned whether he was being faithful to her. Maybe she didn't like the fact that he shaved. She did something. Clearly, the violence just happened. She pulled the pin on the grenade. That's the equivalent. And that's the disgusting moral equivalency that the left is pretending to ignore. So, you see, it's never a shame to storm the barricades set up around a fascist, which is great, because all you have to do then is call someone a fascist, and all violence against that person is justified. You don't have to define how they are a fascist. You don't even have to understand the word fascism or fascist. You just have to call someone a fascism and open season. Think Progress reported, quote, Trump-fueled violence continues as protests in San Jose turn bloody. See? They just continue. Stuff happens. It turns, like the world turns, like clouds roll through the sky. Stuff just happens. Nobody actually makes any choices. Nobody decides to assault people. It just happens. Like bruises on a pseudo-reporter's arms just happened. Never Trump Republican Ben Howe said, quote, plenty of unacceptable violence last night, but, there we go, but I'm sorry, I refuse to think of egging a Halloween prank as violence against women. Okay. So, a female reporter justifying a female Trump supporter being attacked. Is there no hole deep enough for the left to say, I think we've gone deep enough? See, this is when the left calls you like racist or sexist or homophobic or whatever, just remember this. This is their moral high ground. This woman was attacked because she taunted a feral mob. Not the feral mob's fault. Nobody made any choices. She got what she deserved, You taunt them, they're going to hit you. The leftist mainstream media, if they see violent actions that they like, they call it protest. They basically label it speech. However, speech that the mainstream media dislikes is labeled violence, which is why when Trump supporters get attacked by being hit on the heads with bags of rocks, well, they're called protesters. A protester is somebody who speaks in objection to something, objects to something. So that violence is called speech. When Donald Trump says he wishes to enforce laws by deporting illegal immigrants, that's called violence, and that's responsible for the rather aggressive speech of the, quote, protesters who legally, it seems to me, could be described as domestic terrorists. So again, according to the heroic Mike Cernovich, you should really follow him on Twitter, quote, San Jose mayor unlawfully ordered police to allow Trump rally attendee to be attacked. This is a federal civil rights violation because the police seem to have had some stand down commandments or orders, and there's some reports of that. And just for me, when you watch a horde of brown people chasing down a white guy who's fleeing for his life, it's happened a couple of times, it's hard not to think of the word lynching. Now, the media coverage of this is unbelievably appalling. American citizens attempting to exercise democratic rights brutally assaulted by interlopers, and the police, the Justice Department does virtually nothing. And the reality is, these people could not be helping Donald Trump's campaign more if they tried. Why did the police do nothing? Well, a police source told BuzzFeed News that officers were under orders not to break ranks. Imagine what the media would be saying if a mob of violent, angry, destructive Trump supporters started chasing down, attacking, and beating up people of color at a Hillary Clinton or Bernie Sanders rally. Imagine the Nazis, KKKs, lynch mobs. You'd see this on an endless loop until you could close your eyes and see it as you slept. That's all they would be talking about, how evil the Donald Trump supporters were because all the white people were chasing down all the brown people and beating them up because they disagreed with their political viewpoints. However, because these particular thugs are on the left, they're ghosts. They don't exist. Nothing, or if there was any altercations, it's totally the white people's fault. It's almost like there's a pattern. Almost like when white people attack non-white people, it's white people's fault. When white people are attacked by non-white people, it's white people's fault. Have you heard of any Republicans attacking Democrats at their events? If Republicans did attack Democrats at their events, would the media say, well, It's really the Democrats' fault because of the rhetoric used by the Democrats. I guess the logic is of these worm-tongued sociopath media people is saying, well, the Republicans have blood, and if they didn't, they wouldn't bleed, so they brought it on themselves. What all of us saw in the streets of San Jose is mere tribal violence and racism, anti-white racism, which is encouraged by an establishment media. I no longer believe that white people are racist, except against themselves, which is arguably their greatest weakness. I no longer believe that there's a patriarchy. I no longer believe there's a rape culture. I no longer believe in ethnic egalitarianism. And I no longer believe in white racism. You got to grow up. I have to grow up. When a person is a child, they play with childish things. When you grow to be a man, you must put your childish things away. I no longer believe in these lies. I no longer believe in these manipulations and these falsehoods and these narratives that are undoing the very heart and soul and mind of Western civilization, which is pretty much the only civilization I give a damn about anymore. I invite you to join me with the facts, the reason, and evidence, and armed with simple reality and basic truths. We shall be unstoppable.